Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We are with Eric Self. Eric is an old friend of mine, a colleague. We've known each other for a long time, and we've become really good friends over our time working together. And we've developed also a professional relationship in emergency management and how we do our current jobs. We reach out to each other quite often to get each other's advice and just kind of see where we are in what we're doing and the projects we're working on. Eric and I both started our EM journey at the same organization. I started a little bit sooner than he did as a necessity, becoming the emergency manager for the campus. It was a university that we worked for. And then in the process of developing an emergency management team, reached out to Eric and several others on the campus to build an emergency management team. And Eric and I shared a lot of the same views, a lot of the same ways of doing things, but also a passion for emergency management and just being of service to others. And with this conversation on leadership, we wanted to be very, very deliberate and talking about a little bit, starting off our discussion with our journey at our organization that we work for, in the kind of some of the obstacles that were thrown our way, and how we applied leadership in order to overcome them. And then ultimately, after my departure and moving on to another organization, and him doing the same, how we continue to serve the emergency management profession and doing what we're doing now, but how we ultimately, our goal is to help support and coordinate a brighter future of leadership in the emergency management profession, but more so in the professional applying it. So Eric, thank you so much for taking the time to join me in this discussion today. I know it's been a long time coming, and welcome.
Yeah, leadership is a great topic. I actually have my master's in leadership that I got at the same university that we worked at. So learning a lot about leadership and the styles, when to apply a certain style is very important. When to apply situational leadership, and when to apply servant leadership. When I say servant leadership, that's my favorite of all the types of leaderships that are out there. I just love being an example by doing, be the person that's just down in the trenches with everyone else doing the work, and being a leader, but doing it relational. And so I found that is the most effective. I do understand with situational, there's different situations where it has to be where you're the leader and you have to just kind of just put the orders out there and this has to be done, and that's the transaction. And usually you see that happening when some type of event has caused everyone to get together. You have the incident commander or someone or whoever's in that role, they have to kind of do that. But it does help that if they had that type of relationship from the servant leadership that they used before that, of all everything just working a lot smoother. So I've learned that over the years as well. What do you think about that, Dan?
No, I mean, I feel the same way. Ultimately, there's so many different levels or different types of leadership that can be learned and applied, and ultimately, it is situational. I mean, everybody ultimately learns to apply leadership in their own way that best fits them. And if we're going strictly off of educational standards in leadership, there are a lot of different types of categorized leadership, and at any given time you are applying at least one of them in your approach, as long as you're doing it correctly. But sometimes it's just that, is that you're intentional about the work that you're putting in. And yeah, I myself favor servant leadership, but I also favor transformational leadership. And that's a lot of the two styles. If we're going to go off of strictly educational formatting, those were the two styles that I exhibited the most when we were working at Fresno Pacific University. Was the idea that we needed to make some change, and that change needed to come from intentional effort and purpose, and ultimately advocating on behalf of the people that we were serving at the university. And that took some overcoming of obstacles in doing so,
Mhm.
and sometimes it was in our favor, sometimes it was not. But ultimately, is overcoming that sense of authoritative. I'm the boss, so you listen to me. Whatever I say, you do. Turn that into a, well, that's not really the way this works type of situation. So that was a little fun and a little aggravating at times. But as a leader, you learn to move through those situations to make yourself better, and to ultimately, if you fail at achieving your goal, to try again and do better the next time. And we did that multiple times, and we
Yeah.
failed multiple times, and we had to come back stronger. And there were some battles that we fought that we did not win, others that we fought that we won.
Yeah.
And ultimately, to describe it as having to fight a battle to implement safety and emergency management practice was irritating at times, but it was also an important aspect of doing the job.
Yeah, and I really like the learning aspect, especially with when you're talking about leadership and when we were putting this team together at the university, like you said, there was things that we did wrong, and for everyone out there that's trying to do new things, don't be afraid to do something wrong. Just if you have a new idea, put it out there. If it doesn't work, then you iterate and you do some you do something else. um, but what I like about it is the learning experience. And I'm not saying fail every time or do the wrong thing every time, but every time we did something and we learned from it, we got better at whatever that practice was. And just give you an example is one of the things that in hindsight, when I look back, I look and say, what, the communication could have been better. And because in hindsight, you get to look back and look over everything and pick it apart and see what you could have done better. And so one of the main things, and this, we failed to get the leadership buy-in at the beginning. And that's one of the things that I do whenever I'm talking with customers or potential customers with quality. And I tell them, look, everyone knows continuity is important, but you have to get some type of buy-in from administration. And here's what we did, and I go over the things that we did wrong. And I said, make sure you don't have silos where one group knows what you're doing and one doesn't, because that can happen real easily, especially in higher ed. And so all those things that I failed at, I told people, I said, look, here's how I'm going to help you. I'm going to tell you everything I did wrong. You just do the opposite, and you're going to be great. And so I just love doing that because I'm not, I messed up along the way because I was learning as we were going.
Well, there are experiences too that we, as you've mentioned, that we can look back on and utilize to ensure that we don't repeat the same mistakes, but that others learn from them as well. There's multiple levels of learning those lessons. One of them to ensure that we don't repeat it. Two of them is to help others not to even start down the path that could lead them to making the mistakes or setting themselves up for failure, which is ultimately what leadership is helping guide people and in a way that betters themselves, using your experiences to make sure they don't repeat them, or if it's a very good, ultimately some to be very successful experiences that you want to make sure that they model you correctly so that they can have the same experience that you've had. And ultimately, we've both since in kind of developing the emergency management program, it's the first time around there, have stepped forward into different organizations to help basically pursue our own passions for emergency management in the ways that we feel that we can better apply them. I've been a practitioner for now 15 years. You have been a practitioner for a little bit less than that, but you've applied it as a practitioner in different ways. And one of them is being now to this company that you're now representing, Quali, and applying it because of you found that the importance there is in continuity. And so let's talk about real quick about the leadership that you played in helping develop Quali. I mean, there's a lot of work you're doing that's helping develop that software, helping to bring it to market it a little bit more, and to bring it more into the light to show what it can really do for an organization. So let's talk about that.
Well, when I came into this role, there was, like you said, a little bit of marketing and putting yourself out there, and yeah, there's the sales aspect of it. And I'm coming from education, so I had some really good mentors at the company who showed me how to use those different types of tools. um, but what really happened was it all came together when I started using the tools that they gave me and started mirroring that with basically my personality and how relational I am with people. I can talk to anybody, and that's a good thing. And just knowing your audience is the most important thing. And reading a room and understanding what it is that someone wants you to the kind of information that they're looking for. So um, it's been a journey, and I'm still learning. But what I really like about it is I kept things simple, and I said, what do I want? What do I want out of this? To be successful. I want to be successful. I want the company to be successful. I believe in what they do, and they're great people. And so I narrowed it down to one thing, and it was my focus, and that one focus was visibility. And I said, I want visibility. And however I get that visibility is going to be through different avenues. But the idea is when I say, hey, Dan, I need you to send me a Word document, I don't have to tell you that it's Microsoft. You already know that that's a Microsoft because that's a household name because they have that visibility. That's my goal for Quali. Every time when I talk to someone, I say, "Have you ever heard of Quali?" And they're like, "No," and I'm like, "All right, we're not there yet." So and I get it. Where it's a company that hasn't been out for 20, 30, 40 years, and so it takes time. But that's my focal point is the visibility aspect of it, and then how do we do that? That's what led me into putting together tabletop exercises with you, and anything that I can do to not only keep our customers happy and resilient, but at the same time just giving that stuff out to community users as well. And when you start to do stuff like that, visibility starts to happen. So that's my main focus right now.
I think a lot of that too comes from, that in itself, it comes from the application of leadership and stepping in to lead with um, the right goals in mind and the passion that goes behind that. I mean, you do it with intention and with purpose. And your intention here and your purpose is to make Koali a visible name, and you're leading the way in the way you do that. And as you mentioned, you're a relational guy. You could talk to anybody. You're more of an extroverted person. I'm more of an introverted person, and we worked very well together. For all those who are watching, listening, Eric, he pretty much stepped into to be a partner with me in the process and took ownership of the whole thing. I mean, he helped me do the job a lot better because of the support I had from him. And that was leadership in itself. He supported the effort, and then we advocated and educated on behalf of that effort. And in doing so there, we've taken those skills that we started there and learning how to really break down walls and build those relationships and get that buy-in to apply it the way we're doing now. And that leadership, Eric, is a lot of being, intentional in what your efforts are. And you have a very clear vision on what you want. And that in itself is leadership. And then you bring that to your team and you show, and they share that leadership, and you get buy-in. And the next thing you know, you're exactly where you want to be. And it's what's next. And it's the level of passion that you bring to whatever it is that you're doing. I myself, I love emergency management. I fell in love with emergency management, and I tell people, if you don't love what you do, then you're doing it wrong, or you need to find something else that really brings you passion and happiness. The way you do it, I mean, emergency management is so vast. I mean, you're working in continuity of operations software. I'm more of a practitioner, but I am transitioning and pivoting my way to be more of a support and coach for practitioners versus being one myself. And that's kind of where my passion drives from is from being of service to those who are serving others. So I want to serve the server, protect the protector. And the way I'm going to do that is doing things like this, like the podcast and the summits, and stepping into leadership in a way that some haven't, and ultimately open up some doors for others and give them some support and the resources that they need to do the job a lot better than I did, having the resources I didn't have at the time. So these are things that where I'm stepping into finding my direction. I'm going on a journey here myself, and ultimately it leads all leads to the same way, the same direction. I'm going towards service, but how I serve is still something that I'm figuring out. And that comes from kind of an understanding of where we want to go, but more than that, why we want to go there. So I think in general, you found a place you belong, and you're leading the effort to actually grow a new company, if I read the situation right. So
Yeah, and I'm going to talk. I'm going to say a couple good things about Dan here. He is an introvert, and when you have an introvert who convinces an extrovert like myself on emergency management, he convinced me and got me on board. So right there, the passion that he had, you know, that's what brought our team together. So that thing that you were talking about with passion, Dan, that is key, I believe, to doing really well in your space. And when I look back at all the things that, hey, what could we have done better? One of the things that I learned from was that when we put a team together, um, just search out for great people, and don't lower the bar. And the reason why I say that is because great people make great teams, and great teams do great things. And so that's, I mean, there's no math equation you have to figure that one out. It's if you have great people on your team, they're going to end up doing great things. And that's kind of like with the team I have right now. Everybody on my team right now, they're great. And there's I can't say anything where it's like, oh, I like this person, but it's just all good things. And so if you're fortunate enough to have that type of a team, lean into it, and lean into them, because as you guys sharpen one another with your skills, you guys are going to learn from one another. And that's how those team of great people do great things, strictly in that manner. I just love that process.
oh, I 100% agree. And I think there's a level when you really truly care about what you're doing and you're doing it for the right reasons, you have a level of ownership, and leadership is taking ownership. I mean, you take ownership of the situation, and you really help drive the vision, and you help drive what's needed in order to achieve that vision. But a lot of it really truly is, when you achieve a level of buy-in, you still have to achieve a level of ownership from those who are participating if you really want it to be successful. I mean, it's one thing if I say, okay, I'm going to support the fact that you're doing what you're doing. Is different than saying, okay, I'm going to support the fact that you're doing what you're doing. How can I help you do it? There's a difference there.
Yeah.
And attaining buy-in is great, but attaining a sense of ownership, that's greater. I mean, if you can get somebody to buy into the effort, awesome. But when you get them to take ownership of that effort, they're unstoppable, because it's theirs. It's theirs to go with. So the whole effort, if it lives or dies, based on it's theirs. So if you have a team and they all share that ownership, that team will fight together, and they will grow together, and they will build towards the right direction, being passionate and having the same goals in mind. Whether or not they use the same tools and resources to get there, they're like-minded enough to know that we're going the same direction, and they're working as a team. But that comes from that sense of ownership of the process. And that's one of the things that I've fought to really clarify wherever I go and do whatever I do, is that it's one thing if you get the buy-in, which is like a huge thing that people talk about, especially in emergency management all across the industry. We don't have buy-in. We need to get buy-in. It's one thing to have buy-in. It's another thing to have sense of ownership. And if you get that ownership, you'll get the support behind it. I mean, that comes with resources, and that could be people, that could be money, that could be time. And all that comes with the level of intention and purpose, that you are really intentional about who you're talking to, why you're talking to them, and the level at which you're talking to them, with the purpose of either recruiting them to be on your side, advocating, educating, whatever it may be. You have that in mind when they start these teams, these conversations, these organizations, these departments. I mean, I've gone to these different organizations now. My specialty seems to be in developing emergency management programs, because I keep getting recruited to do that, just that. And at this point in time, I'm looking to transition and pivot to be more of as I said, a coach to the practitioner, not so much the practitioner myself. But that's just still an ongoing process as I go down that road.
Yeah, and I'm going to do a little public service announcement. So for those of you who don't know, we did a lot of trainings. We went to EMI. I've been to 3 times. But when we went to Anniston, Alabama, and we went, and here's another reason. Dan gave a suggestion, and we took it. And so when we went there, it was basically like a full hands-on, even more than what a tabletop exercise would be. You have the fake city and stuff, and so we were there for those 3 days doing that. And then Dan said, "Hey, you know what? Since we're already here, there's a 1-day event after that. It's called the Hot Zone." I had no idea what the Hot Zone is. I mean, okay, and I was like, "Okay, let's do it." Didn't even know what it was. And for those of you who don't know, in
Aniston.
Anniston, Alabama, they have a Cobra facility there, and it's the Hot Zone. Basically, they suit you up in your hazmat. They teach you how to find. They expose us to what liquid sarin and liquid anthrax. We had to identify it. They taught us about upwind, securing the location. We did all these things in the Hot Zone. And if you're an emergency manager and you want your team to be cohesive, take your team to this place, do the Hot Zone, because we were put under a lot of stress, but within that, our team became a lot closer because we worked together, in this Hot Zone. And I think it's not open yet, but they're going to open it up, like, I think, in October of this year. They're doing some kind of renovations on it. I was looking online a little bit. But that's my advice. If you're an emergency manager, you want to get your team cohesive, take them to Anniston, Alabama, do a couple of the classes that they have, and then sign up for the Hot Zone. And you'll be stressed out, but your team will be that much closer whenever you guys come back from that trip.
Well, I mean, to your point, I think there's a level of any type of team building, and really building a sense of collaboration, a higher sense of teamwork, and honestly, interpersonal relationship building when you go off site somewhere. So whether it's to Anniston, Alabama, which is amazing, by the way, I'm a huge supporter of Anniston and a promoter of it as well. But EMI and TEEX and CDP, and depending on which state you're in, if they have a training facility, here in California at CSTI. So, I mean, there's so many places you can go and take your team to really be an offsite and train together and eat together and drink together and really get to know each other and really build those relationships is a huge thing. And I'm a big supporter of going offsite for that reason. If you're going by yourself, it can be, it's one of those things too. The networking and collaboration is great, and it gets you out of the office and you're not tied to your office for any reason. I think if anything, COVID, it brought a lot of virtual offerings. Like this summit is going to be a virtual offering, but it also, to some extent, a level of disengagement when you're in your office taking a conference or a workshop, and you get a phone call or you get an email or you get a text message. And it's different when you're in the classroom with your surrounded by like-minded individuals that you are truly engaged in the process, and that includes being able to go to lunch with and dinner with and drinks with and really get to know them, go to the airport with them, fly with them. And that is a team building experience, I tell you what. And we kicked off our team, as Eric mentioned. I had already done all the legwork for being able to get us to EMI and split it up into two sections. And I had already done the legwork, and I got the confirmations that everybody was interested. And then I started. We did the application process, and I bought all the air flares, and I got everybody there, and it was amazing. And then we did it at CDP, and it was one of those things that it truly did build a higher sense of like relationships, more than just colleagues. We were friends, and we trusted each other, and we had each other's backs. And there's that's a higher level of building a really cohesive team, is doing that type of training. And more than that, the people that are involved in your team, if you like, as to allude to what Eric said, if you have a really great person on, and that team establishes a really great team, they will do what it takes to really be that great team and continue to drive that team forward. And one of those is going to training and spending time together. Ultimately, it leads to a very well-rounded, strong team that will help promote any type of program, but also be able to respond to any situation.
Yeah, I completely agree. Leadership, you're always learning. If you feel like you've arrived, then I hate to say it, but you're not going to be that good of a leader, because it's constantly evolving, and especially in your world too, Dan, with emergency management, you have a revolving thing that you have to deal with all the time, and it's based on your environment, and that changes all the time. And cultures change, people change, everything, and so. That's my advice. If you want to be a great leader, learn as much as you can, but the basis of it is going to be relational. Not sitting on that high mountain and pointing and throwing your whip, but basically being that relational person that someone can talk to, someone can feel like they can tell you things, and they don't feel like you're as you're the leader or your boss or whatever, that you're going to look down on them or they're going to get reprimanded. So having that relationship is key. That's what I've learned over the years.
Yeah, and with that level too of togetherness, really, you have a greater sense of vulnerability as well. You have that level of trust, and you're able to have difficult conversations. You're able to open up a little bit more, and you're able to share more. And from that, you actually become stronger in what it is that you do. And that was a very ultimately awesome experience when I, in building that team there, but not just building it, maintaining it while I was there, and nurturing it, and growing it, and everything we did in between was amazing. And I continue to, I'm in contact with most of the people on that team to this very day. And as you very well know, Eric, and ultimately I try and apply that to ongoing team building that I utilize on a day-to-day basis. So Eric, I just want to take the time to say thank you for taking the time to come talk to me today on this subject. It was great to be able to reminisce with you a little bit about that process. Haven't got to talk about it in a while, actually. So it was kind of cool to not only go back and talk about it, but to hear someone else's view of the same process. So that in itself was a very cool experience. And I look forward to our continued collaboration together on some of the stuff we're doing, and our continued growth in emergency management, and everything that you're bringing to not only the profession, but to yourself as a professional, and what that will contribute to those you in turn mentor as you continue going down the road. So just thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me. Any last words that you'd like to share with the audience?
No, thanks for having me, Dan. I just want everyone out there to know that if I can do emergency management, anybody can do it. So it's all about going out and applying yourself, learning, and learning from your mistakes. If you can do that gracefully, and be relational with everyone that you work with, you're going to do really good in life.
Thank you. For all those who are listening and watching, I hope you enjoyed Please take the time to comment, like, share, direct message me if there's anything I can help contribute to you. If you have any additional information on the things that were discussed in this segment, and then all the contact information and links for Koala Ready and for Eric will be in his speaker profile as well. So feel free to reach out to him. He is on LinkedIn, so everybody's aware. If you want to reach out to him there, you could. Thank you so much for taking the time to be a part of this and watch the summit and this leadership segment. I am Dan Scott, and I will talk to you next time.